Kelsey. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and because I'm still having technical difficulties on my end with my YouTube channel, to make a long story short, I'm basically waiting on delivery of some equipment for which shipping and delivery are being significantly delayed because of COVID-19, and that's keeping me from being able to keep up with regular uploads. So you probably won't actually see this video until the readathon in question has already begun, but this is my TBR and tag video for the Stay Home Reading Rush. The Stay at Home Reading Rush is just a mini little version of the Reading Rush, formerly Booktubeathon, that's happening from April 16th through 19th, so just 4 days, and there are just 4 challenges. Also, instead of video challenges, there is this tag video, and the last question of the tag is what is on your TBR, so and I think many other people, are doing the combined tag and TBR instead of making those 2 separate videos. I'll link all of the information for the Reading Rush and the Stay Home Reading Rush down below if you want to check them out. So the first question of the tag is, how is your reading going while staying home? And for me, this has been a bit of a roller coaster with some ups and downs. For the first couple weeks I was staying at home, I was stressed enough and worried enough about a lot of things that I was having a really hard time focusing on anything like a book, and I wasn't reading the right books to like fully whisk me away. I wasn't finding those escapist, immersive experiences in what I was picking up. I think I have hit a bit of a stride though in terms of like my own emotional well-being, and the reading is going better. The first readathon that I tried to participate in like ages and ages was the Women Write Classic SFF readathon, which Maya from Maya Reads hosted, and that just recently ended. I only managed one of the 3 books that was on my TBR for that, but it was the one that I really wanted to participate in that readathon for an excuse to read. That was Travel Light by Naomi Mitchison, which was delightful. And this here is going to be my second attempt to see if I can do better at readathoning for my second readathon of the isolation. Question number 2, where have you been reading at home? This is interesting because this is actually different now than it normally is, now that I am staying home all day most days. Usually I'm in a habit of spending most of the time that I'm at home in my room in bed, so that's kind of where I do most of my reading. Partially this comes from the fact that most of the time I've lived in this apartment, I've had roommates in this apartment, so it's kind of polite to, you know, spend your time mostly in your own space and not in the common spaces taking up space there. But I actually don't have a roommate right now, so I have my whole living room that I have been underutilizing. And so I've really started making a point of getting into a daily routine of moving myself and my computer and my books and whatever else I'm doing or working on that day out into the living room and sitting in my cozy moon chair. I have a lovely, cozy, comfy moon chair. And when I got that chair years ago, I imagined it would be like my cozy reading chair. And now I am making that a reality. So this was a long ramble to get around to the fact that yes, I'm still reading in my room, in my bed some, but a lot of my reading is actually happening out in my cozy moon chair in the living room. Question 3, best book you've read during isolation. This is absolutely, unquestionably the Starless See by Erin Morgenstern. Wait, my copy is still out by the reading chair. Let me get it. Okay, here we are. This book was exactly what I needed, and I know that a lot of people are bouncing off of it because they can't get into like all of the meandering random story bits that this book has, but that is exactly what I liked about it. That's exactly what I needed. The first half of this book for me was like a warm hug. It was here for all of my nested fairy tales and underground magic library cravings. And then from like the middle onwards, where it started getting more intense and more weird, it was like drowning in delicious honey and like being unable to come up for air. This this, very much this. I love this book. This is not just the best book I've read during isolation, it was my favorite book I think I've read all year, and this has been a year where so far I've actually had quite a number of 5-star reads, at least for me. The fourth question is, what is your favorite feel-good book? It's hard to pick a favorite, but I am going to go with The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett, which I don't have a copy of to show you right now because I actually loaned it along with several other favorite books to my best friend before we were officially on lockdown, but we could sort of see it coming. And I decided I was going to stock her up with all of the reading material she was going to need to write this thing out because I am a good friend. In case you're unaware, this is the first of the Tiffany Aching books, which is the sort of middle grade, later veering into YA sub-series of Terry Pratchett's Discworld. This was how I got into Discworld as a young reader. This book was absolutely a childhood favorite of mine that I've then revisited during trying times when I was an adult, and I found it very, very comforting. 5, book you wish you could buy or borrow from the library. I am still buying books online. You will know from my last video that was a book haul. I hauled a box of books from Book Outlet, and I have been ordering some new books, like just 2 at a time from different New York area indie bookshops in order to support them. But there are a lot of books that I wish I could get from the library right now that I wouldn't normally purchase, that wouldn't be on my purchasing radar, that would be on my library radar. One type of book specifically that I usually get from the library instead of buying them is YA books. So just to pick one almost at random that I would probably be grabbing from a library right about now, if I had a library to grab it from, is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, because I recently read her second novel, Sorcery of Thorns, for the BookTube SFF Award read-alongs. I really enjoyed it. It was the sort of escapist YA that I kind of really want to be reading right now. So as soon as the libraries are open again, this is probably a YA book I will be putting a hold on and checking out. Author I want to shout out during this time again. This is not something I put a lot of thought into, but the other book I've read so far that would be my runner-up contender for favorite book I've read so far in 2020 was The Book of Atrix Wolfe by Patricia A. McKillip, fantasy author of many books that I find comforting and escapist and beautifully written, just very rich and imaginative and magical. I know that since I've been reading her books, a number of my BookTube friends here on the internet have also started reading some of her books, but I think she still deserves to be much more widely read in the fantasy community. And finally, the last question, what is your Reading Rush TBR? So there are 4 challenges. 1, read a book with a house on the cover. 2, read a book in the same room the whole time. 3, read a book set somewhere you wish you could go. And 4, read a book that will make you smile. So I have put together a TBR where I can hopefully achieve all 4 of these prompts with just 2 books. 2 books is still a lot for me to try to read in 4 days right now. So I might see if I can somehow like fudge this down into even less reading than 2 novels with overlapping challenges and stuff, but we'll see. My number 1 book that I absolutely want to read is the book that I chose for my book with a house on the cover. This is one you haven't seen me haul yet because it came earlier this month, and I haven't hauled books for April yet. But this is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which was just released in March and that I've already seen several people recommending as a really great comfort read. This was on my anticipated releases list for the first half of the year. It supposedly has some found family elements and some romance. And wow, what a house cover. Like, I had 2 other books lined up where I was like, these both have such good houses on the cover. I have such a plethora, a wealth of riches to choose from for house cover books, and then this one showed up in the mail. I was like, no, No, this is the better house cover. It's such a beautiful, this is art by Red Nose Studio, I think. Yeah, Red Nose Studio does this, 3D sculptural art that's then photographed. I think it's just one guy, but I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he does both, some cover art that I've seen, and he also does some illustrated picture books in this style. And I just adore this cover with that perfectly beautiful house on it. Actually, just to show off my house cover books, I wanna show you the other two books I was deciding from before this one showed up, just to show you what good house covers I have on hand. So the first I was thinking, yes, I have a house book, is Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Maria Griffin, which I have out from the library. This is like a spooky house YA novel. This is another one that's photographed 3D sculptural art. Such a good house, but it's also like, this is a spoopy book, and like, I don't really want to read a spoopy book right now. And then the other one with such a good house on the cover is Angel and Beaver, which is like a middle grade contemporary Beauty and the Beast thing that I have this ARC copy of from 2018. Yikes. And also like such a good house. So I had such good house books to choose from, you guys. But it has to be this one because I really need to dive into something really escapist and immersive. And what I've heard from people who've read this already is that this is. And I think there is a chance I could hit all 4 challenges with just one book if I committed to reading this book in the same room the whole time. If this ends up being set somewhere I wish I could go, I wish I could go to the landscape in this picture, but it doesn't say a book with cover art you wish you could go into it. It has to be the actual setting, and all I really know about the setting of this book is that it's a magical island, which sounds cool, but like a magical island can be really cool or it can be kind of terrifying. I'm not 100% sure what the feel of this one is going to be. And then the 4th challenge, read a book that will make you smile. I'm hoping this one will make me smile, but again, if not, I do have backup. But the book I am planning on is my book number 2 because I know it takes place in a place I wish I could go, is The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chokshi. This is a great opportunity for me to slide in another one of the BookTube SFF Award nominees. This is another one of the nominees in the young adult category, and YA fantasy is that sort of escapist stuff that is all I really want to read right now. This is a historical fantasy novel that takes place in Paris, and Paris sounds good. I'll take Paris. So assuming these are the 2 books I'm reading, I can like park one of them by my reading chair in the living room and like park one of them in the bedroom by my bed, and then one or the other of them I'll end up reading entirely in one of those 2 places. The downfall with if I only try to read one book is that I can only read in one place, in one room for the entire reading rush, which will probably cut down on my reading. So my backup book that I could shuffle in for reading in the same room for the whole book is a super short, like one sitting book. And that is Tales from Outer Suburbia by Sean Tan, which I just hauled in my last book haul. This is super short, short stories, heavily illustrated, lots of pictures. And I'll bet this can be a one sitting book if I want to do this as my TBR. I have options. These are all like puzzle pieces I'm putting together for my TBR. And then if like none of these make me smile, my backup for something that I'm pretty sure will make me smile is one of the Lodestar Award nominees for young adult literature that I have out from the library right now, and that's Catfishing on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer. This is a little bit, I think, thrillery sci-fi YA. However, it is based on a short story, which I'll link down below, that wasn't YA. This is sort of like a spin-off with the same AI main character, but that story made me smile so much, and I read just the first page of this and it already made me smile. So this is my for sure smile book, if nothing else does that for me right away. So yeah, that's my many options to try to cover all of the challenges in as few books as possible TBR for the Stay Home Reading Rush. Let me know if you're also participating, if you're going to try to read 4 books, or if you're trying to condense it as much as possible like I am. Anyhow, I hope you're having a nice day. That is all. Bye for now.